Okay, I haven't done much Elestrals content, and I decided that with the beta for Elestrals Clash coming out next week and the Series 1 Store Championships being today for my locals, uh, I decided I may as well just start this, right? I'm going to start playing it next week and streaming it and stuff like that. But I also decided I want to show off my deck from today's event because honestly, the event went really well. I was really happy with it. So here we have my deck. That's it. That's the video. No, no, no. I'm going to go through it and the decisions I made. I don't spend a lot of time looking at like top tier decks or anything like that. So I know that like of certain decks I know that there's been a popular mill deck going around which I was testing for this, but I just wasn't a fan of it. It just seems to like not be that good, and based on my local environment and stuff like that, I just figured that this build, 49 of these cards are what I wanted. The 50th card, I really couldn't think of anything, and in hindsight, I should have just put in an extra of one of these cards rather than the card, but we'll get to that when we get to it. I want to just go through the deck. First up, 3 Schnark. This card's crazy. This card just searches 2 of the strongest cards in this format, which makes it one of the strongest cards in the format. Like, being able to search for good cards is just so important. My camera fell, and we're just going to go with it. Next, I have 1 Jorblin. This is obviously searchable off Schnark. This card is insane. If you can stick this, there's not much your opponent can do about it. So, Jorblin is just like an absolute powerhouse of a card, and just means draw. Draw, draw, draw. You abuse that draw as much as you can. You get your card advantage. One of the games today against another water purple deck, I had a like 17 card hand after 3 turns of this or something like that. I just so much power. Next is 3 Eddie. This triggers the Jorblin. So a lot of things here have Jorblin in mind. But yeah, so it triggers the Jorblin. It can also like just get around things that have annoying stats on them. So 3 Eddie, very, very good. That's it for the blue Elestrals. Now on to purple Elestrals. 2 Toxiri. The cool thing about Toxiri, it searches. Everything in this deck I want to replace itself as much as possible. So this searching for Dense Fog is really good. There is a guy running around my locals with what's the Pantera deck. Being able to search Dense Fog just really shuts down Pantera. So we definitely don't want the Hydrakes resolving. Next, we have 3 Specteris. Again, this says goodbye Pantera. This says goodbye to a lot of things. This plus Dense Fog is just insane. You get so much power. Putting these 2 together makes this a 7-drop. So being able to just swing for 7 on a 1-drop is just crazy. So yeah, 7 is a really nice number. I think that's it for our purple creatures. Now we're on to green. We are running like 5 colors in this deck. So we have 2 Arbud. Now, these guys are bugs. It's a bug. So here we have bugs. This guy just searches them all. Just gives you more access to those. And then Viserys is also a bug. So we just also search Viserys if we want. Very good for that purpose. Arbud is just such a good card. It doesn't matter if it attacks or not, because it doesn't get targeted. Everything else in your deck is more of a threat. They'll target the Toxiri, they'll target the Spectress. They won't target the Arbud. So when you've got Jorblin out, Arbud just spends every turn changing. It doesn't matter what happens to it. It's fine. You just keep changing its battle position and drawing cards. Obviously with Viserys, the first one's green. The second one, you put a purple or blue under it, just so like you've got this. If you have a Toxiri on field, you make it purple so that your suppress to the board doesn't make this lose 2. So it's still a decent beater. And if you don't, you put a blue under it so that way it can't be spun by the tsunamis and stuff like that. And that way you can just put a Jorblin over the top if you have it. Next, so because we have our buddy Arbud, I was like, what's another good bug? And we're just on to Frostmite. Frostmite is good for just clearing exactly Astrabbit. It just clears Astrabbit. There's a few other defensive cards. Obviously, there's the purple one, the Fox. I forget what it is. The one that like draws a card whenever you cast the moon, a Lunar Phase. So you just play the Frostmite, you clear that, or the Astrabbit. Also came up today. My opponent was on Galaxy. They played a Galaxy, and I was like, sweet, that's cleared. That's gone. Galaxy's kind of annoying to face because, like, obviously Eddie doesn't deal with it at all. But yeah, so that fixes that. 3 Astrabbit. This card's crazy. We just play Astrabbit at 3 in so many decks. So 3 Astrabbit was not at all a card I had to hesitate for. Again, replaces itself. Replacing itself is very important, or removal is very important. P-Gust, speaking of removal. This is a weird one. There's no way to search it. I was originally playing Hurricane over this, but the amount of times my opponent just plays one back row, or no back row even. Like, you don't play back row against any deck that is on Rock in a Hard Place. You just don't want to be putting it down and letting your opponent land that rock. So P-Gust came in just as spot removal for back row. It's not essential in any way, shape or form, and if I do need a bit more, I just side these out for the Hurricanes. It's just a body that also removes the back row. That's the end of creatures. Now you'll notice I am on Rock, but I'm not on Kurubis for the Eddie. And it's just unnecessary. At no point was I like, I really want a Kurubis right now. I really wish this Eddie was a 9 instead of a 4. That just never came up. There was only one time throughout the day that came up that I had Rock in a Hard Place and Eddie that I could resolve together. And it was just as dangerous to threaten the Kurubis. My opponent doesn't know I'm not on Kurubis. So I play the Eddie, I play the Rock in a Hard Place. Now they're like, well, he's got a Kurubis. So I may as well protect my back row, remove my guy, because the guy's going to get run over if I get rid of the back row. And then I can then just poke in with the Eddie and they got to waste a back row on it or take the damage. Yeah, and I'm not losing anything because, like, go on, shield the Eddie. I don't care. It comes back next turn. So I'd actually, in most situations, I'd rather the Eddie there. But that's the end of the Elestrals. We're on to the Runes. 2, Rock in a Hard Place. This card is crazy. Schnark searches it. This card is just so good. You don't even need to play this card. This card is like Hurricane, that if you threaten it, then your opponent just doesn't want to put back row down. Because the moment they put back row down, they're losing a card. And even if it's their choice, they don't want to choose. So, beautiful card. I love Rock in a Hard Place. This is like one of the strongest cards in the format, in my opinion. And it is the reason to play these colors. It is a reason to play these colors together, like, flat out, as in, like, over anything else. I can't think of another color I'd rather be playing than these two together. Even though my deck reflects that I'm playing a lot of different ones. 1 Tsunami High Tide. This is just because I can search it off Schnark. It's not a good card. But if I've already got Jorblin and I've already got Rock in a Hard Place, it's just another option to search. Or sometimes I don't want... Sometimes it's like you can search this because it triggers the Jorblin, or you can search this to make your opponent think you've got Rock in a Hard Place, and they play around it. If you search this and you don't search this when you're playing Schnark, your opponent just assumes this is there and they'll play around it anyway. So this is fine. It's not a great card, but it's okay. It, as I said, it triggers the Jorblin. It gets you around a lot of things. Gets their blues sideways just in case Tsunami doesn't cut it. Next is Tsunami. This card is just... We know what this card does. If you play at Elestrals, you know how good this card is. Obviously, in the mirror, you side it out immediately because it's useless. But any other time, it's just good. And it triggers Jorblin. Like, what more do you need? If a card triggers Jorblin, it's more playable. Dense Fog. This card's insane. Suppressing their whole board is crazy. I got hit with the Morfrost. Did, like, the combo, so it was, like, play the Scorpion form to pitch the Bat form to bring back the, I think it's the Abominable form, the one that gains 1 for every Morfrost in grave. And then the Scorpion form's also primed something for destruction. And then they attack with the Abominable form, you Dense Fog them. The Abominable form drops to 1 or 0 if you have this, the Toxiri. And then, so that dies, and then... To my knowledge, we may have just ruled this wrong, but I did ask the opponent the ruling was there, and he said that he can't resolve his Scorpion form because it is now dense fogged. So it just meant that his whole turn, his big wombo combo, just completely turned off by one card, and he loses a guy. So very, very good. Artemis. This is the extra card. This is the 50th card. I'm playing the one Artemis because I was worried about Hydrate. Which I understand how dumb that sounds, because generally if Hydrate hits the field, it's attacking and killing itself and becoming Pantera that turn. Sometimes it gets out early. Sometimes you Tsunami it when it does that, and then you can just Artemis run over it. I didn't draw it a single time, so it doesn't matter. It never came up, but it also just... For this deck, I have enough access to Dense Fog that I just didn't need Artemis. Between Dense Fog and Spectrus, Artemis just felt unnecessary. One Earthquake, I'm on green. This card's good. Every time that I saw this card, it was useful. Or it was nice to have it as a fallback. Again, in the Pantera matchup, because I did face that player, it was just good to just be like, I opened this in game 1 and was like, cool. We just win these, I guess. Sorry, I'm just trying to fix the camera because it just keeps falling. We just... there was not a single situation where it was like, cool, if I never leave anything with 5 or more in attack, other than Specterus, he's never getting to Pantera in one turn, and I can just EQ the Twin Drill when it drops. 3 Gorgons. Gorgons is crazy. So 3 Gorgons is obviously just going to happen. Again, it suppresses. It has come up where I will Gorgon's Gaze my own Arbud that's just sitting on the field, just to give Specterus a boost. So if I've got a guy on the field that's doing nothing, say the Arbud, Arbud just sitting there next to a Specterus, and they put out a 5 or a 6, I can run the Specterus into it, Gorgon's the Arbud, this puts Specterus to 6. Specterus can kill or trade with something that it normally wouldn't be able to deal with. So Gorgons is crazy. Just deals with everything that's a real threat. And then obviously 3 Ambrosia, because when you see my Spirit deck, you're going to see why I need 3 Ambrosia. We have 6 Water. Pretty standard, 6 Water, 6 Lunar. This is not enough. You will run out every single time. But that's what we're running because we need those. That's our majority. You'll almost always see an Ambrosia, especially if you've got Jorblin going. So you can get back the ones that you need. Sometimes you use more of one than the other. We have 4 Teratlas. This is 2 for the EQ, 1 for the Viscerus, and 1 for the Arbud. That's it. That's the line. At no other point do they come up. There was one game today that kind of bit me in the ass. I used the last 2 because I was like, I haven't seen EQ all game. I'll use the last 2 on taking damage and then drew EQ for turn. I still won the round, but Jesus Christ, that really sucked. And then 1 Fluoromine for the 2 Frostbite. It doesn't come up that there's need for the second. 1 Licorice for the P-Gust, Pigling, whichever one it is. The bird, the pigeon. P-Gust, that's the one. It's just back row removal, so it's fine. And then these 2 for the Astravits. The third one never comes up. If you don't see an Astravit in your opening hand, one of these can just be spent on whatever. It's fine. You don't generally need 2, but sometimes you'll open 2. And then onto the sides. The sides are pretty simple. 3 Hurricane, just because sometimes people will play into it. If they realize you're not on Hurricane, they might just play into it. They'll be like, well, he's doing spot removal on 1 back row each turn. I'm going to play 3 back row at once, and this is when you gotcha them. You take out the P-Gust for these, because that's still, your 1 wind is still live, and I'm already playing the other 2 colours. 3 shield. If your opponent is not playing back row removal, this card's great. If your opponent is playing back row removal, this card sucks. One of the kids there plays Celestleo at locals. It's insane, and this card does nothing to Celestleo, so I'd rather a Gorgons or anything else in that situation. I'd rather just take damage to the face than try and wait for my shield to be live. But yeah, I only sided these in the last round. Oh no, actually I sided them in against the Pantera player as well. So my first round was Pantera. My second round was the Mirror, so Water Luna, except his was like playing Kuribus and not playing all the weird bug shit. Uh, and not all the suppressed stuff. It was mostly water with a little purple. And then my third round was the Morphrost deck, and obviously this went in against the first and third games. So, very good there. 3 Cryoblast. This also just... Man, I have to reiterate, I did a lot of testing against Pantera, and I just didn't want to risk losing to it. So, I had this at 3. This deals with so many things. It's really nice. It's just spot removal. If your opponent's not on ice, you just side these in. You take out the Frostmites for them most of the time. And then 2 Boombat and an extra Thunder. The extra Thunder is just because, obviously, if you're putting in the 2 Boombats and you're keeping the Rabbits, which you should, then you're not going to have enough Thunder to pay for everything. The 2 Boombats are just removal for literally Celestleo. This thing just says, bye Celestleo. There are so little effective ways to remove Celestleo. And also Farrageist. This deals with Farrageist if someone's on that. Someone was on that today. I didn't face them. So I got fortunate there. But I feel like I wasn't too concerned about Farrageist just based on the amount of removal that my deck has. And just search power. So yeah, that's the deck. That's my Jorblin deck, essentially. Jorblin bugs. Genuinely, like, this was just obviously an MVP. Every time this hit the field, I won the game, like, within 3 turns. My opponent was, like, ready to scoop it immediately, and I'd just be like, why are you scooping? I'm up a game. If you scoop here, like, the event's over. Like, I know it doesn't look good, but surely, like, you try, right? If it was, like, tied, if it's 0-0, sure, scoop. But if it's 1-0 in your opponent's favour, what's the point in scooping? Arbard was just crazy. This card just is so under the radar. Your opponent will not attack this because everything else in the deck is a threat. So this can just sit there and it can just keep changing battle position for Jorblin, or it can keep attacking. And your opponent's just going to let it slide because they're not even wasting an attack on this. They have to be removing stuff as long as you're always up in card advantage, which you usually are. This thing's crazy. This is such a threat. In the last matchup, the Morphrost matchup, they know they lose to Dense Fog, so this got Gorgons twice. So game 1 and game 3, they Gorgons this shit because, like, this card is crazy. Specteris, just this solos so many decks. Like, there are decks that cannot out this. Like the Pantera deck, what does it do to this card? I put out two Specteris against the Pantera guy in the game 2, and he essentially was like, cool, it's over, I scoop, because he couldn't out one of them, let alone a second. Eddie's cool. But Schnark is such an MVP. This card is just so good. It doesn't do anything. It just says access the good cards in your deck. But yeah, this duo was also really fun. And nobody, I tell you, not a single person in the world was prepared to play around Frostmite. Again, like, the moment that Galaxy hit the field, and I was just like, cool, Galaxy's not a threat. I'll focus on the rest of the board. I'll clear some things, let Galaxy run its course for a bit, let him commit more to the board, and then I'm going to just Frostmite and clear the Galaxy. And when I do that, he's, caught stands down because he doesn't know where, like, the rest of his stuff is not in the right position for its attack points. Yeah. So, just very useful setup. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Yeah, the deck was crazy. I want to take this out and just put in a third Toxiri, honestly. Artemis did nothing. A third Toxiri sounds way better just because it searches Dense Fog, which Dense Fog was a crazy card all day. Every time I saw Toxiri, I saw Dense Fog at the same time. So it would be like, play Toxiri, search Dense Fog, set 2 Dense Fogs, and they'd be like, cool, we know to play around 1. And then you just proc it at the first, like, necessary time. The amount of times that they were like, they put a shield up to defend their guy from, like, an Eddie, and then I run it with a Toxiri, and they're like, okay, and then it's just like, Dense Fog, it's now, your guy loses 2, and Toxiri's going to clear it. And it's like, you weren't ready for that. And if you're willing to shield to protect your card, you need it too much. that card matters too much to you, I'm going to waste a Dense Fog on it. And they're like, cool, he's wasted the Dense Fog. I'll play into the second Dense Fog. Yeah, this card's a little MVP. I fucking love this card. And I like this guy searches the two best cards, or not the two best cards in the deck, but just two of the best cards. Like this duo. I got this out almost every round, these two together. And it's crazy. Just like Specterus is such a threat. This can just sit there sideways and your opponent has so little they can do. And then eventually the Joblin hits the field, and now this is just going to keep flicking back and forth, drawing your cards. Joblin hits the board, you draw 3 immediately. It's insane. But yeah, that's my deck from the Series 1 Elestrals event in Shepparton, Victoria. Yeah, any questions? I'm happy to answer. There might be some cards that you're like, why didn't you play this? Why did you only play one Joblin? I only own one Joblin. Also, it's searchable. I don't think I'd ever play more than one. Didn't play Kuribis or Drakid because, like, they just didn't seem necessary. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Obviously, the real reason I'm citing 3 Hurricanes, I'm the only person in town that has 3. Other people only have 1 at this point. I got very lucky. I only bought 1 box. I pulled 1 from my box. I pulled 1 from my prize packs the week after, and pulled this from the tournament pack of that same week. So in the space of a week, I got all 3. And that's just pure luck. Someone bought 2 boxes and they got 1. So people know I'm on this, and that makes it less good, because it's like, if I main these, that's just 3 dead cards. My opponent's not going to play into it. And all day, my opponents were not playing into it. They were never setting more than 1 card because they were expecting the Hurricane, which is fine. You can set 1 card because I'm on rock in a hard place. Set 1, I dare you. Anyway, again, thanks for watching. And next week, once Elestrals Clash drops, I will be jumping on beta and playing the fuck out of it.